Hey guys, it's Ben again. Welcome back to the channel. Let's just sort of jump right into things here. Today, I'm going to be using Procreate on my iPad, but this process can be applied to pretty much any digital painting program. There's a lot out there, a lot of good ones. I just happen to be using Procreate. So the first sort of part of my process is finding a good reference photo. So let's do that. I recommend Pinterest. I actually already have a reference photo. Today we're just gonna be drawing Tom Hiddleston. What I like to do once I have my reference, actually I typically draw this way, and I will just put this in half the screen and the other half I'll use Procreate. This way I can just have a nice side by side. In this, I've actually already done the sketch, so let me just turn on that layer. This is sort of what it would look like by the end of the sketch. I'll just have my reference right next to my Procreate file. For the sake of showing this though, I'm just gonna put this on full screen here. And like I said, I did draw this already, but I'm just gonna walk through sort of that process. As you can see, just start off with some of the basic proportions. I'm kind of using a big brush here, bigger than I would normally use, just to lay in the main features, the eyes, the nose, shape of the head, the mouth, and the hair, just to make sure you can kind of see the likeness. And then I'll go in with this smaller brush, actually refining the details here. So like you can see the nose, the eyes, then I go in with the mouth, and then I'm sort of marking in that shadow shape, refining the head shape, and just making sure I can see a likeness. Things will get adjusted as it goes on, but just constantly looking back and forth to my reference and making changes as I see fit. I find it easier to start off with a bigger brush, something like this, and I'm just using the basic round brush that comes with Procreate. Something big like that, and then once, I want to refine the details, something smaller, like that. And that sort of leaves me with this sketch. And then I'll add another layer on top of it. Right here, I already have it. And then I'll start the painting. All right, so next I'm just starting to block in the basic colors and tones of the portrait. Here I'm just trying to use a limited palette, just trying to guess the average colors that I see in each area of the face. This way it just keeps things simple and consistent for me. You'll also begin to see me add the main shadow shape on the face. This is just trying to give the general idea of the form and acts as a good jumping off point for getting into more detail for the rest of the portrait. Okay, so here we're adding in a bit more detail. At this point we're adding some color to the lips, making sure the light and shadow parts are made clear with those values. Adding color to the eye, also making sure that the whites of the eyes aren't entirely white. This left eye is actually quite gray, quite dark, and the right eye is a little bit lighter because that side of the face is in light, but there is a bit of a cast shadow from his brow. Moving along, adding some blushness to his face in certain areas, and adding some detail to the nose, sort of outlining it a little bit better, and adding that highlight on the ridge of his nose, and then doing a little bit of blending as well. All right, guys, so as you can see, I was able to finish up this portrait with some of the details and finishing touches. I did not record me doing it, but I am gonna sort of go over what I did through the time lapse. The difference between what you saw last and what I have now has a lot to do with just identifying the different tones in the face. In my style, I guess you can say, I'm still sort of developing it, but I like a little bit more of a graphic portrait. So there are some hard edges where there aren't actually hard edges. I still like to make sure the soft edges are coming through. I do make some creative decisions there. So let me just pull this into full screen. So as you can see, it's had a little bit more graphic, some harder edges where there are actually soft edges, but I still think it looks like him. I was able to capture his likeness, and let me sort of take you through this process. So as you saw, we did the sketch, then we laid in those basic colors in the shadows. That's kind of where that went. And then, as you'll remember, I added some details. And then from there, I just sort of looked at the reference, darkened the darks. That's sort of what you're seeing here, making sure those values match the reference, and then adding in some highlights. And I'm trying to abandon the sketch. You'll see I'm kind of turning it on and off every once in a while. It's on for the most part here. Eventually, once it gets to a certain point, I want to not have to use it anymore, so those sketch lines don't come through. You'll see me kind of go back and forth and just continue to add values, continue to add different hues on the face. I'm trying to match as best I can. A lot of the time when I'm working like this, it's just continue to add darker darks. My first passive values are usually a little bit too light. Most of the shadow value I originally added got replaced by a bit of a darker value, as you can see here, and continue to maybe 2 or 3 times more make them darker. The hair didn't take too much because it's mostly just black. Just added a few highlights there. Made the background a little bit lighter, and then just sort of adjusting the shapes of the hair to make it look a little more flowy. And yeah, guys, I just kind of went back and forth from the reference and continued to pick out shapes, pick out values, and make sure things matched as best I could. You can see a lot of small changes in color and in value, and that's what I'm trying to capture. Up close, they may look a little silly, but in the grand scheme of the whole portrait, it looks all right. The main thing I wanted to capture with the skin tone is these reds here, and it's hard to tell, but there's some in the chin, the cheek area, and the ears. This will come through a lot and will add liveliness to your portraits. Even this shadow shape is a little bit redder than it was in the reference. In the reference, it's pretty gray. A lot of times in the pictures, they don't capture the real saturation. So I like to make these shadows a little bit more saturated than they actually are in the reference. Same with just some of these values here. That's pretty orangey red. And yeah, guys, I hope this has been somewhat helpful. If nothing else, I think hopefully it was a little bit entertaining. My one thing I do need to work on is I just get bored, like, by this point, of anything that isn't the face. So I think the face looks good, but this right here is bothering me. So the things that I could adjust, and maybe I'll go make another video about this sort of thing. But if you guys have any questions, any comments, please let me know. Please put them in the comment section below. I'm happy to talk about anything, make new videos about anything. I'll be posting this, probably the time lapse, on my Instagram account, so you can follow me there, Ben Brennan Portrait Art. And I think that is it for today, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.